going to record now. Just to revise what we've been talking about for the last minute or so is that you do have two assignments. Um, sorry, you do have and one assignment has been given to you. That assignment you can do as a group of two also because you need to do the role play. And you have the project. I don't know if I should let the assignment you can do as a group of two. The project, I'm not. I don't know. Let me. That I can do it with a family member. Is it written? You can. You can work with a family member, I suppose, for the role play. The project, you'll find. I don't think I think the project you should do by yourself, but the assignment you can do as a group of two. Absolutely, you'll need to do as a group of two. Okay. So I don't know. We can discuss that some more, but that's what I'm thinking at the moment. Is I think that you should do the project on your own, but you can do that assignment in a group of two. So today's exercise, then, or today's discussion more than exercise, is this topic on teams. And so we have a nice chapter on teams, and included in the chapter on teams is a model which is called the Tuckman model that sort of creates the main basis of our discussion. Oh, there's a lot more. But anyway, so I'm going to start on that now, unless there's any sort of teams. So the first couple of slides in this, and I am going to go through this a little bit quickly because this should be fairly obvious to us, I think. But the idea being that working in a technological service desk nowadays, there's so many things going on. It is complex. The amount of expertise required is more than a single person is able to bring, and certainly a single person is not able to keep up with the volume of work, and therefore we need many people with many different skills, and that requires organization, but it also requires a team. So it's in a service desk, no single person can do that. Now, the technician who's at the center of this diagram would represent what we'd call our level one support. And we see them interfacing with our customers through various channels of customer requests, right? So customers are coming through various channels. Now, the technician will try to resolve incidents. So a lot of what we've been talking about in this course is incident management. Technician tries to resolve incidents as they arrive, but in some cases they're unable to do that, and so they will go to their level two support, which is represented here by these three people here: the specialist, the analyst, and the engineer, who are people that are sort of in the attached to the service desk, but not answering the phone directly from customers. And so they are sort of diving into the deeper technical issues. And then, of course, we have our offsite support, which we refer to as level three. So the idea being that all of these are our team, and this course is focused on this person here, the technician, because in the service desk, level one support, though a lot of the work that we do is on our own, we do need to have reasonable relationships with and an understanding of teamwork with these other people who are part of our team. So these are some of the reasons, and I've mentioned those. Working in a service desk is technical, and technical stuff has become complex and basically not conducive to a single person doing it. All right, so a lot of people need to be involved. So we have teams. Teams can be more or less successful. Here's some suggestions, and you may have some others of your own, things that could help a team to be more successful. So obviously, if the team members all know what they're supposed to be trying to achieve, we refer to that as the purpose, or you could say a goal. So a team is a group of people that is working towards a common goal. Shared leadership. So the idea of that is that we Don't discount the understanding of other members of the team, so that there's not one person making all the decisions in a team. We do sort of have some kind of input from people in the team, and diversity sort of goes with that. So there's a lot of talk about this word diversity here in a sort of a political sort of framework, but that's not the framework that is referred to here. This is a technical framework, and so in here we're talking about the diversity of skills and backgrounds in the people in our team. So for example, in a service desk, you have some people that are particularly expert in networking applications and uh, hardware installations and that type of thing. So, while other people might be particularly expert in certain applications or in software development or whatever. So you get the idea. That's what we mean by the diversity there. That's important because we have to sometimes dive really deep into the technical in order to solve issues. Now, the next things there about trust. Openness goes with trust. Um, Obviously, if the team is to be efficient and and effective, yeah, people need to trust each other. They need to have confidence that when they ask another person to help them, that help will come and be positive, and also that that the communications are not misunderstood, and yeah, that there's not sort of agendas that they can't sort of deal with, sort of happening in the background. Now, in order this idea of a mission statement and a value statement, um, a vision statement, this idea was really well developed in the 80s and 90s. A lot of organizations went around and developed their mission statements. I'm pretty sure we've got one here, so so the idea hasn't gone away. But the idea of a mission statement is to bring that focus that we talked about a minute ago, that a team has a common goal. So a mission statement, very clearly and succinctly, that means without very many words, with a few words, is able to state what it is that's the common goal that we're all trying to achieve in this team. Here's an example. This is an example of an actual help desk, a service desk. And so its mission is to solve problems efficiently and continue to support the technology initiatives at Burlington High School. So this is a service desk. In their service desk, a mission statement, they have mentioned who their customers are, which is the Burlington High School, and they've mentioned what they're going to do to serve them. And so that's our mission statement. Mission statements all often refer to all the stakeholders, not just your customers, but they also will include some things about how we're going to sort of um, or what it is that we want to achieve. Um, I mentioned a bit earlier this idea of shared leadership being that we draw, uh, uh, we get the voice of everybody who's in the team to sort of contribute. You'll see later when we talk about the Tuckman model for development of a team that different leadership skills are important in different times during a team development. So the idea that you should take away from this slide is it's not like sort of it's not like um, an army sort of autocratic, tyrannical sort of here's the boss and we do everything they say and the boss is the only person that has the idea. It's not like that. In a technical team, generally there'll be some kind of input from everybody in the team. And yeah, that's underlined by this idea of diversity. The people in the team have different backgrounds, they have different ideas, different skills, and those things we need to sort of tap into them. To give you a bit more sort of depth on the differences between people, we can divide people up by lots of different ways, and here's one, which is by their age. Oh my gosh. Seniors and baby boomers, right? Well, baby boomers will become seniors soon, I suppose. But in the Gen X, Gen Y, I don't know if this is even if you've even thought about these things. The idea being that these different generations of people have been exposed to different expectations because society has changed quite a bit in the last 50, 60 years. And as a result of that, you may have different ways of doing things. That's interesting. And yeah, I guess it's probably a little bit true. And the idea also is that because they have different expectations, there's different, um, yeah, well, maybe this slide's a little old. Gen Z, yeah, you guys would know where that is. That's sort of since the year 2000 or something like that. Is it millennials? Yeah, I don't know. Gen X, Gen Y. I don't know. All I know is I'm a boomer. Boomer. What's that meme that goes around? Okay, boomer, which is sort of a dismissive sort of put down of the fact that boomers seem to be how you say self-absorbed and unwilling to change. I don't think that that's quite true, but it's a nice funny meme anyways. Um, so besides coming from different backgrounds, and as we say, things have changed a bit, and I'm sure you'll notice that with your parents and grandparents. There's probably a few different sort of outlooks than you have. I certainly notice that my children's outlooks are different than mine. Um, so yeah, there's that. Then there's other things regarding your personality, and that could be the reason why you have different outlooks as well, right? So there are different personalities. Psychologists have done a lot of work on this, and basically there's like 5 basic personality spectrums. And you've probably come across these things. Some people are very introverted, some people are very extroverted, right? Some people are very ordered, some people are very unordered, etc., etc. And it's a worthwhile exercise actually as an individual to sort of do an analysis of your own personality, and there are tools that you can find online to do that. Psychological um, Psychologists have made all kinds of tests that they can apply to people and then determine their where they fit in these personality spectrums. And actually, that's done as part of recruiting in many organizations, and particularly in things like uh, for commissioned officers and things like that in armed forces and things like that. Or spy agencies, police, whatever. They will do personality tests to see if the salespeople, yeah, where a particular type of personality um, is preferred. And that's not to say that people with the other than that personality are not good people. It's just that they would find that this particular type of work wouldn't suit them, and they might not like it, and they might not stay, whereas a person with a particular personality would like it and would stay. So they do personality tests. It's really well understood by now, I think. And I think it's a worthwhile thing to find out about your personality, because if you know a bit more about your personality, you can make better choices on what kind of work you're going to do and that type of thing. And just do a Google on it, you'll find out. You can find out a bit more about your personality, do a test. So based on that, and we're all IT people. I assume that you came to IT on your own choice, that somebody didn't force you to. Now, bearing in mind that IT's, it's available. You walk around and you see different things. Well, I don't really want to be a nurse or doctor or something like that, but I kind of like working with computers. And there's actually some personality input that goes into that, right? And so yeah, so probably just the fact that we're in IT, we have some personality similarities, or at least some, how you say, sympathy for each other, because we kind of understand that. We need to be able to work together. That's the idea of trust. And trust is something people say that you need to kind of earn, right? It doesn't just sort of come just because you show up. People trust you. So when we join a team, that's an important thing that we need to do, is build up people's trust in us. And that's basically done by being honest, not not attacking people behind their backs, and doing your work and all that kind of thing. And people, especially if you're going to be in a team over a long period of time, that trust is really, really quite important. And so that's all that's about. Um, okay. So again, right, and I even if you've never been in a how you say a work team, most of us through our education, and I'll thank the British for this, right? I don't know, because British made it very big part of their education in the 19th century is that everybody played a sport, and of course that's gone around the world. And somebody's going to tell me that was in some other cultures as well, and certainly it was in the Greek cultures in 2,000 years ago. But that sport thing is quite an important part of education. People play soccer, or when I was a kid, we played baseball and football. So that's quite important because, and people play cricket. That's quite important because you learn team um, teamwork there, and you learn also leadership. And so that's quite really a. And actually, I watched a video about that with the British public schools. Very interesting. So yeah, if you want to have a look at that sometime. But yeah, sport in education does build teamwork. And so the point that I was trying to make is probably you've all been in a team somewhere, and in a sports team, and the teams that tend to be effective, as well as having good skill amongst the players are able to sort of communicate very rapidly because of a strong amount of trust between them, and that's kind of good. All right. So, what is a successful team? Well, it points out here that the good leader is not the only thing of the team. In fact, a team can succeed with a rather mediocre leader if the team members are sort of able to sort of uh, display those issues of trust. On the other hand, yeah, a very, very bad leader could spoil a team. What should an effective leader do? They should remove obstacles, and they should trust the people that are in the team with them and share responsibilities with them. In other words, to take into account and make use of all of the skills of the other people in the team. So this point here we have already mentioned, and it will be mentioned in another slide later. I mean, these points, which is what are the things that make a good team? They're all moving towards the same goal. They have lots of different skills. They trust each other. They have good relationships. And then the point that we're going to go on to after this slide is that a team can be built through a process. So there was this, I guess you'd say, management psychologist or business or industrial psychologist. His name was Tuckman, and he put forward this model, which, based on his observation on what it takes to make a good team. And that is called the Tuckman Model, and that's what we're going to look at now. And he made the point that you can't just put people together and then there's a team. All right, you need to take some time. It's kind of like cooking, I guess. There's some time required, and it needs to have the right environment. Again, like cooking, right? It's got to have the right temperatures, and etc. And then you have to have people that are willing to work through that process. And if you have that, then you can go through these processes. Now, he came up with this model, which is called, you won't be surprised, the Tuckman model, because it's the model that was developed by Tuckman. And he said that there were 4 steps in or stages in development of a team. And in order to have a fully functioning at its, humming along at its highest effectiveness and highest efficiency team, then you have to go through all of these phases or steps. And his observation was that there are many teams that are put together and they don't go through all the steps. And so, for example, maybe they miss the forming step. If they miss the forming step, then they're not going to ever get to performing at a high level. Likewise, if they miss any of these steps, if they miss this, they might have the forming step, but they skip the storming step. Well, the norming step's not going to be very good. I mean, his model basically says that you can't do storming until you do forming. You can't do norming until you do storming. You can't do performing until you do norming. That's what Tuckman's model was. And now let's look and see what each of those phases are. So the first one there is forming. This is when you put people together in a team. Now, I should say at this point that if you're working in an IT development team role or working on any IT project, you will probably find in your work experience that you're going to be a member of many different teams over not that great a time period. So teams are put together just for a few months to meet a particular purpose. And then once that goal, once the project is delivered, then that team might be disbanded, and the members of that team go on to go to join other teams. And so a knowledge of this of how team works how teams can be put together and developed in a to get the most effective teams. That knowledge is very, very important in the IT industry because we're always making teams and then breaking the team up and then making new teams. So we need to be able to do that very, very efficiently. All right, so I've got 10 minutes left, so we'll finish soon, I suppose. So the forming, that's when we put people together in the team, and it's very important at that point that the team leader specifies and makes very clear what the goal of the team is, what it is that this team is put together to achieve. And so that's going to take a kind of a strong input from the team leader at that point. The team leader is going to develop a mission and goals, if you like. And yeah, because the members of the team are going to be from lots of different backgrounds, probably. And so, yeah, the team leader is going to take a strong role in forming. Now, this diagram shows the 4 steps uh, and again, you see the arrows. This time the arrows are going in a different direction. But here's our forming. We just talked about that. Very high degree of guidance is required by the team leader in the first step, forming. The second step, storming, can only occur. Now you get this idea, right? After forming. Only if these things have occurred properly can we move on to the storming stage. And we don't know how long the forming stage will take. Maybe it'll take a day, maybe it'll take a week, maybe it'll take a month, right? But storming's not really going to happen until after forming has happened properly. So once forming has happened properly and we've got to the point where the goals have been well established, then we can go on to our storming. And in the storming situation, what's going to happen is, as opposed to the forming, when people didn't know each other and they didn't sort of have a handle on what was going on in the other people in the team, people tend to be a little bit reserved in the forming stage. They're going to be polite. They're going to be putting their best face forward. They're going to be uh, non-confrontational, probably, and they're probably going to be sort of listening to the leader quite carefully, right? Now, when we get to the storming phase, this is when people have started to get more comfortable. They're comfortable with each other. They sort of sized everybody up. They kind of know where people are coming from. And this is the point where you start getting controversy in the team. So what you're going to have is different viewpoints on how to get to the shared goal. And so different ideas are going to come up, and probably there's going to be a bit of argy-bargy, as we would call it in Australia. Now, I'm not talking about sort of physical things, but yeah, but people are going to actually say, well, no, I don't agree with that idea that you have. It's going to be polite like that, we hope. That idea you have, I think that I have an idea, and we want this to happen. Storming should happen. We want people to bring their different ideas to the fore. That's going to happen in storming, but only if forming has happened effectively, right? So once after forming, people are comfortable, we know what the goals are, then they start inputting, bringing their ideas. Yes, we'll talk about the assignment after. Uh, well, let me just finish this diagram because we're going to run out of time, and then we'll talk about the assignment. All right, so the next phase is the norming. So what happens in the norming phase is that people have sort of come to agreement. So here we're having a lot of controversy in the storming phase. In the norming phase, we sort of come to agreement. We've heard everybody out, if you like. We know where people stand on things, and we've kind of come to a consensus agreement on how things are going to go with the team. And that can only happen properly again if the storming phase has been completed and people have been able to put forward their different ideas. Once people have come to a common sort of understanding of how things are going to go, that's when our norming is. Then we can move on to the last phase, which is a kind of the idealized phase of the team, where the team is working well, they're focused on what they're supposed to be doing, and they know what it is, and it can work pretty well without too much input from the management. Right, so I'm going to stop there. And because I've been asked to discuss, and we've got 5 minutes left, I've been asked to discuss the project and the, sorry, where is this? The project and the assignment. So you do have a project. I hope you can see this still. You can, right? Yep, still sharing. And so the project is got 5 steps in the project. The first step is to write the first chapter of a manual, which would be for the service desk. And then the first chapter of the and to put together your index. So the first chapter in the manual would be about communicating with your customers. And it includes or highlights a list of do's and don'ts. Now, I'm pretty sure that you can find that in our notes. So yeah, so that's going to be about communicating. Now, remember, in communicating, we had, so that would be like the first 3-4 chapters of our text of our course, for your first deliverable. So in the first chapter, we took, well, not chapter 1. Chapter 1 was about the service desk itself, but chapter 2 and chapter 3 were communicating. Chapter 3 was communicating on the phone, and chapter 4 was communicating by writing. Chapter 2, we had all that stuff about empathy and, showing our understanding and stuff like that. So all of that could go as input into this first chapter. Of course, you don't need to make sort of a 20-page sort of thing. It can just be a few notes, a couple of pages. So that's due next week, fairly soon. So you need to get on to that. And then the week after that, you need to write a chapter on how to write tickets in OTRS. So that one is, yeah. I hope that's not too hard. We've done an assignment on that already. Then chapter 3, dealing with difficult customers and maintaining your stressless health, I'd say, right? So that chapter will be about some things that you should do to deal with the difficult customer situations and how you can reduce your stress. Now, we haven't talked about the stress bit yet, but that is the next chapter in our notes. So we will cover that before you have to do that. And that's going to be due on March 21st. And then our last chapter in our manual is going to be where you're going to discuss the service desk, and for a hypothetical service desk, you're going to put out a organizational chart and how people work. Now, I've just been asked, is this your final applied project? Because yes, this is. We do not have a final exam. And you are doing it step by step. That's correct. And the last phase is to make a presentation video, which where you sort of show me your service desk, service desk manual. So the idea is you're making a manual. I imagine this thing could have a total of 15 pages, something like that. There's 4 chapters, right? Maybe 20 pages at most. And it's going
Mr.
to be,
Mark,
this is how we should do our service desk. That's what the manual
Mr.
is going to be. Yes, somebody
Mr.
was
Mr.
trying to ask me something. Go
Mr. Mark,
ahead.
where we can find task one template, work document, so we can fill it?
I don't know.
I don't know how do we start to do it.
Um, you want me to give you a template? I don't know. I don't think you need a template. If you use Microsoft Word and you just start writing, then there's a feature in Microsoft Word. Let me see. There's lots of features in Microsoft Word. But so once you've got a bunch of stuff in Microsoft Word, you can insert a index, you know. So type a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can just can't remember where it is exactly, but you've got all kinds of sort of things that you can add in Microsoft Word to it. Wouldn't be in design. Yeah. I suggest you sort of Google it, right? These are the type of things I don't memorize because if I need it, I'll just sort of Google it, right? But for a template, well, you could probably even just find Googled on that, you know, a manual template. Sorry, I haven't made a manual for a while. But yeah, I'm sure that you can find it. You guys are right. Sorry, I do not have one for you, but let's see. Manual template. I mean, I think it's going to be like that hard.